guys, welcome back to Project Unstuck. I'm so excited for today's guest because not only was she my first business coach, but she was actually a really huge part in me getting unstuck the first time from my job at Google. So today I'm joined with Jess Glazer or Jessica DeRose. Jess, you're going to have to clarify which one you prefer to go with. So Jess is a former celebrity personal trainer and elementary school teacher who turned her once cute side hustle into a multi-million dollar business in just 18 months. Since leaving her teaching job in 2017, Jess has hired a team of incredible, heart-centered leaders, served hundreds of clients, and helped them generate over $11 million in revenue, which is absolutely insane. So welcome, Jess. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my gosh, it's so surreal to be here. I appreciate it. And we can do whatever you want with the name. It doesn't matter.
Yes, because I know you rebranded. You were Jessica Glazer
Yes.
for a while, and then you went to Jess DeRose, and I really love why you kind of did that rebrand. Maybe we can talk about it at the end.
Yeah, of
But
course.
first of all, it sounded like pretty stuck in your own career as a teacher back.
Yeah.
I don't know when that was, but would you say you felt stuck at that point?
Oh, totally. I think, respectfully, they call them golden handcuffs. But yes, I mean, I loved my job. I did. I mean, I was a phys ed teacher in an elementary school in a beautiful town in New Jersey. And every kid had an iPad and we had smart boards in every room and I had all the equipment you could ever dream of. And I was the only phys ed teacher in the building. So it was like my show and it was so much fun. And, I worked as a personal trainer to celebrities for 18 years. So being a phys ed teacher it was just all made sense. It was all part of it. And I did that, like I said, for 8 years, but I definitely felt very, very stuck. It was sort of, but I have summers off, but I have a pension, but I have good benefits. And how dare you walk away from something like that to go do something completely unknown? And I don't know if it's going to work, this whole entrepreneurship thing. So yeah, I totally felt stuck.
And how did you get past those fears that were coming up for you?
Yeah, it was actually a podcast episode that I was listening to in October of 2016. So at the time I had been teaching for 8 years, I was driving to work listening to a podcast, and this man was interviewing a woman who was a teacher. So I was listening, I'm a teacher, and she was selling jewelry on Etsy, which we didn't go down that path, but I also was selling jewelry at the time. I had gone to fashion school. And so I'm like in the dashboard listening. And he said, what if you gave yourself a year to go all in on the jewelry business? If it didn't work out, what would be your worst case scenario? So she said, I don't know, I'd probably just go back and get a teaching job. I might have to go to a different district, but I know I can get a job somewhere. And so his answer is actually what changed our entire life. He said, oh, how does it feel to wake up every day and live in your worst case scenario? And I was like,
Remember you told me that.
So I pulled the car over. I was hysterical crying on the highway. I texted my husband. I said, I can't do this anymore. Like, this isn't my worst case scenario. It could be so much worse. In fact, it was a dream for so many people and for myself at one point, but it wasn't my best case scenario. And the reality of like, I'm actually doing the thing that I would do if the thing I want to do doesn't work, that really stung for me. So that was the moment that I got unstuck. And really, we went home. I got home that night. Mike and I sat down and started plugging numbers and what would it look like? How long could we survive on his income, which I don't take it lightly that I did have his financial support, which was, for about a month or two. And just a couple of weeks after, maybe 3 weeks later, I walked into my principal's office and resigned with no plan. It was, in his words, a terrible idea. I was a tenured teacher on this great path and he thought I was crazy, and I did it anyway.
Look how it turned out. Look who's crazy now. It's very interesting to me that you kind of had that one aha moment and you're like, I'm done. Mm-hmm. A lot of the new entrepreneurs that you work with, I'm sure, and that I've experienced and I've met, there are so many limiting beliefs and fears and self-doubts that come up, especially in the beginning. Yeah. So are there any sort of like strategies or tactics that you can recommend to deal with some of that mind gunk that comes up? Because for you, it was a quick, turnaround, but for a lot of people, that's a very sticky thing to get out of.
Yeah. Well, it was quick in that moment, but I had been carrying that baggage for a couple of years. So I was very unhappy in my job for probably 3 years, wanting to quit for 3 years. At that time, I had already been selling things online for 5 years. So I started selling digital programs, workout things, ebooks and stuff like that, blogging in 2012. So I was 5 years in, and I was also working in a network marketing company. So I was seeing what was possible. Mm-hmm. And so while the moment was like this shakeup on my shoulders, it was years in the making of limiting belief and checking myself. And so I believe this is the way that I see it. The fastest way out is through, right? The only way out of something is through. And so action breeds confidence, action breeds clarity. And so while it seems counterintuitive because it's scary and you don't know what it is or how to do it, the only way that you're actually going to figure it out is if you start trying. And so there's little tiny baby steps that you can take. And for me, what that was 3 years of going to personal development events while I was a teacher and reading personal development books and trying network marketing and trying blogging and, selling $79 ebooks to, I think my mom was the only person who bought a copy the very first time. But it was every time I tried something, I would both gain clarity on, did I like it? Did I not like it? And also, did it work? Did it not work? How can I do it again moving forward? And I think we put so much pressure on ourselves with things in our life where if we just looked at it like going to a restaurant, if you go to a new restaurant and you try a dish or even your experience of the restaurant, when you leave that night, you ask yourself, did I like it or did I not like it? Without it meaning anything about you. It's just, did I like it or did I not like it? If you like it, asking yourself why. What was so great about it, the experience? Was it the ambiance? Was it the wait staff? Was it the food? If you didn't like it, why did you not like it? Same questions. And that right there will determine if, number one, you go back again, and number two, you tell other people about it. So when we're having these stuck moments in our life, it's stopping and pausing. There's so much power in the pause, but it's stopping and pausing and saying, okay, I'm going to try something without attachment to it working or it meaning anything about me. I'm just going to try it. And then I'm going to take what I learned. I'm going to take that data and I'm going to assess. Did I like it? Did I not like it? Did it work? Did it not work? Do I want to do it again? Am I going to tell someone about it? And you just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
Action breeds confidence. I remember you told us that, and that
Yeah.
really stuck with me. Another thing that you said that like I always hold this so close to my heart whenever I'm like working on my business or working with my clients is take messy action. And I love
Yeah.
that because it takes a lot of the pressure off. And this is actually what I am sort of preaching a bit as well, because I really believe that building a personal brand is a great way to get unstuck for several reasons. But one of them is content creation can create a lot of clarity. So you may think like maybe you're a doctor and now you're like, I'm really interested in getting into like something spiritual. Maybe just posting about some of those topics and seeing, does this really resonate with me? Am I excited to create content about this all the time? I think that can also be a great way to sort of gain that clarity. But you mentioned the pause, and I know that you've spoken a lot about pausing before you pivot. What kind of goes into that?
Yeah. I think there's so much power in any pause, even when we're speaking, right? I mean, it's like we speak quickly. I speak very quickly. I'm a quick teacher, but when I'm speaking on a stage, and we've all experienced this, when someone stops talking on stage, everybody actually starts listening. It's when you're going through it so quickly that it kind of goes in one ear, out the other. But if you stop talking, people look up from their phones because they want to see, did something happen? Did I miss something? Is he or she showing something? Did they just trip? Did the microphone go out? And so that analogy of literally pausing is the same thing that we do in our business. So we are very quick, the collective, we are very quick to pivot when something isn't working. It's really easy when something doesn't work to run the other way. And so when people will pivot in their business, I say pause first and just ask yourself. Self-awareness is everything. So if you can just ask yourself some questions of the deep-rooted why. Why am I pivoting? Am I pivoting because it didn't quote unquote work? And if it didn't work, have I actually tried everything? Am I making it mean something about me? Because we're meaning making machines. So, okay, cool. You put something out and 0 people enrolled, whether it was free or paid. Stop. It's not that the thing didn't work. It's let's be a scientist. Let's be a scientist or a detective in our business. And what we're doing in the business is we're in the lab. And so if you were a scientist and you mix 2 things together and they exploded, that doesn't all of a sudden mean you're not worthy or no one likes you because it exploded. It just means these 2 substances together explode. Great. The data is if I want to make a volcano, use these 2 things. If I don't want to make a volcano, don't mix these 2 things. And so when we can take that perspective in our business of we're scientists, we're constantly testing. The more we test, the more quote unquote success you'll have, the more forward movement you'll have, whether that's making money or growing an account or pivoting. But it's the pausing that allows you the space to really get clear on, Why did this work? Why did it not work? What can I do differently? What energy did I bring into this? What mood was I in? What was going on in my life? Was this a bad time of year? Did I miss the messaging on this? Was it the copy? Was it the where the words were placed on the page? There's so many little nuanced things in business that are actually creating or not creating the results that you're getting. And it never has anything to do with your worth or value as a human. It just doesn't.
Making it mean something about you is something I was talking to Della and Reese about for
Yes.
Project Unstuck. It hasn't aired yet, but it's going to be the next one. And that was something that they recommended that we do, is not make anything mean something about us, especially when it comes to dealing with anxiety and depression, which is a big sort of byproduct of being stuck. And I think that's so important because especially when we're younger and we face sort of challenges, we really attach whatever sort of outcome that is to our identity, to what we can do, how we can show up. So creating that detachment is amazing. I want to shift gears a bit and talk about the ego is your biggest overhead quote, which you told me, and I know you heard from your coach. Can you talk to us about what that means and how you see it showing up?
Yeah. So gosh, many years ago, one of my dear friends and mentors, Chris Harder, had said, ego is your biggest overhead. And I've carried that with me and I've shared it. And I always quote him on that one. But it's this idea that our ego, which is there to keep us safe, it's a good thing. It's not ego is bad, ego is wrong. It's there to keep us safe. Thank goodness we have ego. And there are different angles of ego. But what happens is your ego gets in the way and it wants to keep you safe. And so what it actually does is it costs you time, money, experiences. It costs you knowledge. It costs you asking for help. It costs you saying you don't know. Like, how many of us are fearful of saying, I don't know? Or how many times, okay, if you're listening right now, remove the ego and be honest. Just answer this in your head. Have you ever experienced someone asking you a silly question like, have you seen that movie? And even though you haven't seen it, you say yes. Why? Right? Like, people do it all the time. Do you know this actor or actress? Yes. Have you heard this song? Yes. But like, you haven't. So why do you say yes? That's your ego, because you don't want to be left out. You don't want to be left behind. You don't want to look dumb. You don't want to look like you don't know what you're talking about. You don't want to be the only one in the room who doesn't know. And so the ego jumps in and it will cost us so much. And so ego as your biggest overhead has been something that really was a pivotal moment again in my business that helped me get unstuck. And it came to because I was sitting with him and we were looking at my phone. This was probably 2016. He made me pull up my website, and I had a lot of as seen ons because I was a celebrity personal trainer. So I was on TV and in the magazines, and I had spreads and all of it. As you can imagine, my website was packed with dozens of as seen in this and as seen in that. And he looked me dead in the face and he said, how many more of these do you need to feel worthy? Like, how many more of these do you need to, and let me just be clear, he knows how to coach me, and that is the right way to do it for me. That I'm good with that. He wasn't being a jerk, but he just said, how many more of these do you need before you feel worthy? How many of these have actually made you money? What are you doing? You're just procrastinating, and procrastinating is a mask, right? So we're just masking wanting to get uncomfortable or not wanting to get uncomfortable. We're putting a mask on saying, maybe we're busy. We do this all the time with self-sabotage. I'm busy. You're creating the busy. Busy doesn't mean you're worthy or valuable. You're just putting stuff on your calendar so that you maybe don't have to do the things you don't want to do or the things that make you uncomfortable. So, at the time for me, ego really was my biggest overhead because I was afraid to ask for help. I was embarrassed to admit that I was wrong or if I didn't know something. And so I played that game the majority of my life. I mean, I was so driven by awards and accolades and accomplishments my entire life that I internally was having so much pain and suffering, and an 11-year eating disorder and addiction to different types of fat burners and laxatives and all of that, coming from a place of I will do anything to win. And I didn't have that worthiness. I just wanted to win. And it wasn't until recently in my mid 30s, probably now I'm in my late 30s, but in my mid 30s where I started to recognize I'm worthy regardless. But that was all ego. Yeah.
Self-worth is something I've been struggling with a lot, and it's something that is a little bit insidious. You don't always see it as a big block to you, but I really think a lot of our issues do stem from a lack of that self-worth, because I, like you, got my entire value from my achievements, from whatever, the big name brands. And so when I stepped away from that and I had to figure out who Stefanie was, that was hard. And I still hold on to things like Google Dropout. Not as much as I used to, because before it was like, I need to remain like a part of this big brand. This is so much of my value. Now I kind of keep it more so because it's a credibility builder. But I think finding that identity after we kind of leave something that's really shaped us is so difficult. That being said, I want to now look at, I'm sure you've had plenty of clients that have felt or have come to you stuck. I was one of them.
Yeah.
And so what are some of the biggest, I want to look at this in two ways. First is, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing these entrepreneurs face that are stuck?
Yeah. It's so interesting that you say I was, because when I look at you and when I remember back to first starting to work together, you didn't seem stuck at all. You seemed like you had everything in front of you and everything behind you. And so it's so interesting to hear the perspective of someone and what they're going through. It's just, that's not how I saw it.
Yeah.
You know, I think everybody's stuck in their own way, in their own place. So no matter who comes into my world to work with us at whatever level they're at, whether they're a brand new person with an idea or they're a seven-figure business owner, they're still stuck in different areas. And I think it's a journey of personal awareness. Like we were saying, it's a personal development journey, and that is life. And so people can even be stuck in their personal life, but maybe not in their business. And maybe that is even sabotage there, right? Like it's again, masking with the doing. And I've done that so many times. Like I'm just going to work my tail off and work and work and work and ignore and avoid the thing that I don't want. So I think everybody has their own variation or version of stuck. And I can't imagine not ever being stuck. I think that's the goal, right? It's like, do we ever arrive? I don't know that we ever arrive. I think the journey, I think that the doing is the destination, or I
Yeah.
should say the destination is the doing. So it's like being in it is it.
Right. It is such a nuanced thing, and I think it varies in degrees. When I came to you, I was feeling incredibly stuck, but also pretty liberated because I had just quit my job at Google.
Yep.
I had built an audience. So maybe I wasn't as stuck as I was thinking initially. I felt a little bit more stuck before and after working with you. For those of us that are feeling, let's say we're stuck in a 9 to 5 and we want to move to a maybe go off on our own, but we're feeling completely overwhelmed, overburdened, burnt out.
Yep.
What can we do to sort of like pull ourselves away from that and begin to walk towards this new future?
Yeah. I personally think that, again, this self-awareness is huge. So Tony Robbins talks a lot about, I think there are 6 core drivers of humans. And so it's, variety and uncertainty, or the opposite, which would be certainty. There's growth, there's contribution. So there's a couple different things. Knowing yourself is really important. So the last, I don't know, 2 to 6 years or so, entrepreneurship has really started to, it's like very trendy. And so people think that they need to be a part of it, or they want to be a part of it because it looks really sexy and there's a lot of shininess over there and it's new and it's different. And so there are a lot of people who are quote unquote stuck in their 9 to 5 jobs, which we can go off on a tangent. You're not stuck. It's a choice. Like I understand you have bills to pay, but also there's a lot of jobs that you can have. You do not have to stay at the one that you're at. There's always a choice, and it might not be easy. It might not be comfortable. It might require consequence, or I should say, what's the word I'm looking for? It might
Sacrifice?
require, sacrifice. Like you might need to do some things you don't want to do, like move into a smaller home or not pay for all of the Netflix, HBO streaming demand things, right? Not
Yeah.
go to the gym. You go to maybe peel back on the Amazon orders, whatever it might be. Like you might have to make a small sacrifice for a moment of time, a blip. It's like the exchanging the short-term gratification for the long-term change of life. And I even did this when I left my teaching job. I mean, we downsized by 2,000 square feet. We went from having 2 cars to no cars. There were just a lot of things that we kind of quote unquote sacrificed so that I could do it. And ego is your biggest overhead. I told myself when I left my job, I will do whatever I need to do to make ends meet. And I will get jobs that I think that I'm above. I was 32 years old, 32 years old when I left my job. We had a house and a mortgage. We were adults. I was not like a child bopping around. There was a lot of responsibility, right? So for me, multiple college degrees and graduate, years of experience, 18 years as a celebrity personal trainer, almost a decade as a teacher. And then I had to be okay with, it was a choice. I might need to go pick up a shift at fill in the blank so that I could make ends meet. And I might feel above it, or I can't believe I'm going to do this when I have all these degrees, how embarrassing. But the choice was, ego is your biggest overhead. You need to do what you need to do. So going back to, you're stuck in this 9 to 5 job, first is knowing yourself. What I learned in my 3 years of really being uncomfortable in teaching was that the reason I was so unfulfilled was not because my job sucked. My job was amazing. I was a phys ed teacher, like in an elementary school. I don't like certainty. So what I learned was that I crave variety and uncertainty. So for me, teaching at a school, a traditional 9 to 5 job was very much like living on a merry-go-round, where every year it was the same thing again. It was like back to school night. It's October. We have the assembly. It's the book fair. It's right. Even the way I say it, you can hear it in my voice. The steady paycheck was very nice. The summers off was awesome. The not having to work weekends was great. However, that sort of monotony of the same thing all the time, I started to learn that was the thing that I didn't like. I didn't know because the clarity comes from the contrast, right? We said action breeds clarity and confidence. So when I tried something different, and different was the roller coaster of entrepreneurship, which is you don't know what's around the corner. The highs are high, the lows are low, the lows suck, but we live for the highs. The drops are really fun. I started to learn, oh, I love uncertainty. I value variety. We've never lived anywhere longer than like a year and a half. I mean, we literally lived in an RV for 14 months and traveled 27 states in 14 months. Mike and I love variety and uncertainty, but it wasn't until I learned that about myself that I was able to give myself sort of the permission to lean into that. So I say that to say, step one is knowing yourself. If you think you want to leave your 9 to 5, ask yourself some deeper questions. Is it really that you want to leave, and why do you want to leave? Or is it because you think you should? Is it because the people around you are? Is it just because you don't like your particular 9 to 5? You're in a toxic environment. Maybe it's your boss, it's your work hours, rather than just like, I'm so stuck in my job, I don't know what to do. Once you've figured that out, kind of knowing yourself, which by the way, it's not just like a question on a journal prompt. This is an ongoing process of learning yourself, years and years, forever. But once you can understand that and sort of unpack that, you'll get a little bit of clarity. And at that point, I would say, start trying. Dip your toe. Like, you don't know you don't like olives until you taste olives. If you're interested in learning guitar, but you never start because of the fear of it's going to take so much, it's so much work, it's so much practice, I don't have the time, you're never going to know if you actually want to learn or you think you want to learn. Just try it. Take one lesson. You're going to very quickly learn, I like the idea of knowing how to play guitar, but I actually don't want to do that. And that's okay. So I would say at that point, once you start to figure out really knowing yourself and asking yourself the deeper question of why you think you want to make these choices, then start trying it. And that's what I did. When I was a teacher, I was selling ebooks. I tried blogging. I was running Facebook groups. I was taking courses. I was reading books about digital business. And it was like, let me dip my toe in this water. Let me dip my toe in this water. Let me just see what this could be. And for the record, I did not replace my income when I left. I was making about $300 a month in my side hustle. That does not equal $50,000 a year of a salary, right? So like I had not, and I don't suggest doing that, but I had not replaced my income. But again, knowing myself, similar to what Chris said to me that day, for me, burning the boats is the best way. Like, I'm like, take the safety net away. I just burn the boats, baby. Like, I'm going to make it work. Cause again, I will win at any cost. Right. I've outgrown that a little bit, but at the time, get out of my way. I'll win. I'll make it work. I'll figure it out. Some people burning the boats will cause feelings of anxiety and uncertainty. Right. So you have to know yourself.
That concept, I believe I read in Think and Grow Rich, and it's so true because cutting out the nets and removing the safety nets really does create this fire in you to give you the motivation to do it. I want to also add to what you were saying because it's so important to know yourself before you make a pivot, before you work on getting unstuck. And that's why the first module of my program is all about laying that strong foundation, gaining a lot of that clarity. But one thing that worked for me when I was feeling stuck before I even worked with you, when I was on my leave of absence, was looking at my values, figuring out like, what are my top 3 to 5 values? And then where are my values in misalignment in different areas of my life? And in my career, there was a huge misalignment because I valued freedom and autonomy and all of these things that I wasn't getting. And so I think looking at what your values are and then comparing them to what you're actually experiencing can also help with that clarity. You are one of the most impressive people I know for so many reasons, but one of them is how much you're able to do, how high quality work you create. And it's always blown my mind. I'm like, I feel like Jess is able to like clone herself, or I don't know how she gets it all done. I know we've talked about this a little. But I bring that up because you have a really interesting way of managing your energy and prioritizing that you sort of spoke to us about a bit. Can we talk a little bit about energy management, energy centers, and how you've maybe used that or not, if there's other ways that you've been able to prioritize better?
Yeah. Well, thank you. I don't do it all myself. So if I fooled you, I apologize. No, we have a really incredible team. And, A lot of things are delegated, a lot of things are automated. I really deeply believe that systems and structure create freedom. So similarly to you, freedom and autonomy is definitely one of my top core needs and drivers and one of my values. And so we get freedom when we have structure. People think it's the other way around. And it's like when you think of a child in elementary school, let's say, when they're off for summer break, they are not their best selves. Humans do really well on routines. So parents love to put kids into camp or half day things or create some sort of a schedule at home because, I mean, even think about yourself as an adult, right? We all crave days off, even if you're your own boss. And all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, what am I doing today? Like, what should I do? It's like the worst when you first leave your 9 to 5 job and you become this full-time entrepreneur. I hear it all the time from our clients who make the leap. They're like, so like I'm getting nothing done. I kind of feel like garbage about myself. I like, how is the days just like, they're just passing by because we need structure. We need structure. So I don't do everything by myself at all. Everything's delegated, automated, systematized at this point. We've worked on it for many, many, many years. And we make it a priority, and I make myself a priority. There are things that I do. I definitely have different tools in my toolbox, and I'll use different ones at different times. So what I may have taught you, 2 years ago has probably changed and evolved because I've changed and evolved. But I do believe that we are not great at jumping from thing to thing. We're just not. I mean, humans statistically, like we can't multitask. We think we can, but we can't. It's just not good. And even if you're doing it, you're not paying full attention to one area or either area. You're not optimally working. You're not your best self. You're probably not at your best memory. And the reality is you're burning more energy doing it. So when we only have so much energy throughout the day, let's say we have like 100 little cubes of energy, and every task that you do takes up 1 cube. If you're doing 2 tasks at the same time, you're literally draining 2 cubes. Like you're doubling how many cubes you're draining. And then at the end of the day, you're probably left more exhausted or whatever that might be. So there are different energies that we use, masculine and feminine. This has nothing to do with your love life or what you identify as or what you were born as. We actually have different sides of the brain. We have the masculine brain, which is the left, and the feminine brain, which is the right. The masculine brain is our logical brain. And that's very like spreadsheets, black and white data, point A to point Z thinking. It's got to make sense. That's the part of your brain that jumps in when you're dreaming about something and it goes, well, that can't actually happen, right? That's the masculine side. The feminine side of our brain is the creative brain. It's the free flowing. It's very colorful. It's the idea machine where you get all these ideas. It's the dream machine. It's like that part of the brain that I'm talking about. When you're doing anything in your life, specifically in business, we have different tasks that are masculine tasks and we have tasks that are feminine. Again, nothing to do with sex, right? When you're doing something like spreadsheets, data analysis, you're reading through metrics, you're, planning out stuff like that, that's going to be the masculine side. When you're coaching, when you're when you're doing a podcast interview, when you're in the flow, when you're just riffing like I am right now, when you're creating Canva slides for a new presentation, that's the feminine side of the brain. So it would be a perfect world situation to say, separate every single thing you do. And Mondays are masculine days and Tuesday are feminine days. And that might not be the reality for you, especially if you're a solopreneur. But what you can start to do, and again, it's about one step at a time. What you can start to do is start to chunk together those tasks. So chunk together, give yourself an hour or two to do things that are, writing emails, or then over here, maybe you're batching out videos that you're creating. The filming of video is very different than the editing of a video. So just kind of putting similar tasks together will make a really big difference in your energy because it is less time jumping from one thing to another. And I don't have the stat in front of me, but I believe years ago I read a research study that said it takes our brain actually something like 23 minutes to settle back in when we switch from one thing to another. So while you're writing an email and then you get a text message and you come back to the email, even though you can finish the email in like a minute, it would actually take your brain about 23 minutes to fully shift its focus back. So you're playing like ping pong with yourself all day. So it's just kind of an idea of chunking down. I'm not saying you have to batch your content, but can you separate your days a little bit or your time throughout your day a little bit? And that's something that I do.
So when we switch between the masculine and the feminine sort of tasks, that is when we really begin to drain our energy. That was, I loved when you shared that. That was such a light bulb moment for me. And it really did affect how I made my calendar. So thank you for sharing that. I want to now look at the entrepreneur who feels stuck in their business, maybe because their offers aren't selling, they're not able to close. Why do you think that is, or what can we really do to remedy that?
Oh my gosh.
I
Oh my
know, big
goodness. Okay.
question, big
Well,
question.
no, not so much a big question, big answer.
Good answer.
So it's like you're asking me as like a doctor to like
Yeah.
diagnose something that I've never even seen, right? Remember, we're scientists, we're in the lab. And so it's our job to really start to dissect all of the different things. So, very simply, you said, your offer isn't selling. It could be a million different things.
Right.
So, I'm just going to rattle off a few, but it could be a lot. What it is not is that you suck. It is not that you're not worthy. It's not that you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. It most likely is maybe you didn't have enough runway, which is time warming your audience up and letting them know that something is coming. You maybe didn't go through the very important 3-step process of validating that what you're creating is something that they actually want, and validating that the way that you're speaking about it is hitting the nail on the head and really resonating with them. Part 2 of that would be, did you take the time to tease it and create that Hollywood hype, right? Hollywood does such a good job. They tell us about movies during Christmas that are coming out Memorial Day weekend, and they made us wait like 6 months. And along the way, they're putting out longer trailers. They're telling us more. You're seeing the actors and actresses on talk shows. So did you do the teasing? And then during the promotion, if you validated and teased appropriately, this stuff should quote unquote work. But if it's not, go back to things like it's probably your messaging. It's probably your marketing. It's probably just the amount of time or lack thereof. Is it your launch vehicle? Are you using a launch vehicle? Have you actually talked about your offer? Did you talk about it once? Because that's not an appropriate sample size. Where are you talking about your offer? Have you asked other people to share it? Have you asked clients and past clients for referrals? Like, have you actually done all the things that you could be doing? Sort of done the Hail Mary thing, if you will. So there's so many things to look at. I would say most entrepreneurs are missing the mark on messaging. I'd say that's probably the biggest. That, and they're also, the second biggest mistake is we're busy selling the product or the deliverable rather than the offer. And those are two very different things.
Is this the plane
Yes.
and the island?
Yep.
Oh, can you talk about that? I
Yeah.
love that metaphor.
Yeah. So real quick, I'm a visual person. So on my left hand, we have your client is on island A, and that's where typically you were as well. Because many of us are our future version of our client, right? Like we once were that person. So island A is what they're challenged with, what they're struggling with, what they're currently in, what you once went through. It's raining. It's like uncomfortable. It sucks. Like they don't want to be on island A. Island B on my right hand is where it's sunny and it's beautiful and it's amazing. That's where the solutions are, the goals that they want, the outcome that they're dreaming about is island B. In between is the airplane, because that's how we get from A to B. So I'm a Jersey girl. I can say it. Nothing is fun about Newark Airport, right? So Island A, like Island A is Newark Airport. Island B is Greece, like Santorini. Santorini.
Love it.
The airplane is your product, your program, your membership, your proprietary method, your framework, which is great. It is the thing that's literally going to get them from A to B. However, most of us are busy talking about our product, which is the airplane. So let me just dumb it down. Steph, do you want to go to Greece with me?
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Because this is what's going to happen. We're both going to pack bags. We're going to take Ubers. We're going to head to Newark Airport. It's so dreamy at Newark. I love it. We're going to go through the gate. We're going to get our stuff checked. They're going to make us take our shoes off. We're going to get like a $9 Starbucks. And then we're going to sit at the gate for 45 minutes before we board. We're going to get on the plane. You have the middle seat. Kind of sucks. Just deal with it. It's like a 7-hour flight. It's going to be amazing. Okay, I can keep going. Now, on the other side, Steph, do you want to go to Greece with me?
Yep.
Cool. It's going to be incredible. I booked us a spot at Scorpios. That's that place where everybody like dances on the tables in Santorini or Mykonos, whatever. And it's amazing. We can watch the sun come up after we party all night, sober or not, totally up to you. We'll do cocktails, mocktails. There's so many sexy people there. Everybody's tan. We're going to hang out on the beach. It's going to be amazing. Oh, we're going to rent those crazy dresses that everybody takes pictures where they're like flowing in the wind on the rooftop with all the white roofs. And then, like the crystal blue water. Do you want to go?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So the first version, I'm selling the travel. I'm selling the airplane, my product, my program. For us, our signature programs in Power. It has 17 modules and 75 videos, and we do 35 calls, and you have a 150-page workbook. And oh my God, that sounds like work.
Yeah.
It sounds terrible.
Right.
I understand that your product or program is the thing that's going to get them there, but that's not what they're interested in. When you sell the island or you sell the offer, what you're selling is the transformation. You're letting them know that they're going to get to where they want to go. No one cares about the how. They just don't. If we can get a little bit more granular, yes, your program, product, service is the how. Your offer is sharing the transformation. Your product is teaching them the how. You don't have to sell the product. You sell the transformation. You sell the offer. And to get a little bit more granular, while we create these awesome frameworks and templates and all these things, right? These products and programs, it's not actually your program that's creating the transformation. It's something inside your program. So let's go one step further here. Let's say we are old friends, we meet up somewhere, or like, it's the aunt whoever. And she asks me, my aunt so-and-so asks me, gosh, I know you're a trainer for all these years. I hate to ask you this question, but I'm like really struggling with the last 5 pounds. Like, could you have any insight for me? How can I lose these last 5 pounds? Okay. My answer probably is going to be something around some sort of a diet or caloric deficit, or it's going to be some sort of a workout or particular type of thing I want her to do. My answer is not going to be the name of my program. I wouldn't tell a stranger or my aunt that the way that she's going to lose the last 5 pounds is my program Empower. No, you say, oh, it's really simple. You probably just need to work out more, build a little bit more muscle, and decrease your calories a little bit. So that's actually the thing that causes the transformation. You just teach the thing inside of your program or product. So don't get that confused either.
Yeah, and I think this is why the research on your ideal client's pains and pleasures is so crucial because, and this is, you taught us this in so many different ways to research, which I love because obviously the best way is to get on the call with someone one-on-one that you know is sort of in your ideal client. But for those of us that can't really do that or don't want to do that, which we all can, looking on Reddit or Facebook groups for those specific pain points, the specific goals they have, the specific values. And that's, I think, where you can get the richest insight to put into the transformation because those are the things that people care about. They don't care about what you can do. They care about what you can do for them. I now am a little curious because you spoke about kind of dipping your toe into a lot of things, trying a few different things. If I am a multi-passionate person, I'm thinking about building my personal brand. I don't really know what direction to go in. I don't know what my niche is. What should we do? Is it about sort of trying a lot of different things, or is there a method to kind of figure that out?
Yeah. Well, my personal opinion on like passion is that we're all multi-passionate. That's just how humans are. If we build our businesses on passion, we'll never be able to build a business because 1 month we want to learn guitar, the next month it's Spanish, the next month I'm taking dance class, right? Like that's the point of passion. Your business is not meant to entertain you. Your business should not be the thing that's entertaining you. So you get to have hobbies. You get to have passions outside of the business. I believe businesses should be built on purpose. And with your purpose, we can nail it down to 3 Ps of a profitable niche. The easiest way to pick your niche. We're all wasting way too much time on our niche or niche, however you say it. Number 1, is it profitable? That matters. It should be something that has legs to stand on. Are there other people doing what you do? When we think about a chiropractor office, a dentist, a home repair, a HVAC, a fitness coach, like there's billions of them. There's billions of them because we need them, because people want them. When we used to live in New York City, there's a coffee shop on literally every street corner. So the fact that there is one on every street corner is validating the fact that we like coffee and we need coffee shops, right? So they stay in business. So number 1 is it profitable in the marketplace? Quote unquote, competition is a really good thing. Competition causes innovation. Look at the iPhone and the Samsung Galaxy. Every time one of them comes out with a new version with new features, the other one's right behind them with even better features. Competition causes innovation, right? Saturation causes innovation. So is it profitable? Number 2, what's the problem you solve? Don't overthink this. It's very simple. The problem you solve is just generally what you're good at, what you're skilled at, what your expertise is, what you went to school for, what people know you for, what your certifications are, and just what people ask you for. So what is the problem that you solve? And then number 3, what's your personal story? How does it personally relate to you? What have you personally been through, whether it was your transformation or other people that you've helped? When those 3 intersect, profitability, personal story, and the problem that you solve, that's your niche. And your niche is just a really fancy word for like title or industry. So we get a lot of health and fitness professionals that come into our world. That's your niche, health and fitness, like point blank, that's your niche. Now you can get more specific and you could be a somatic healer. You could be a personal trainer. You can be a group fitness instructor. You might be a nutritionist or a registered dietitian who practices, functional medicine and holistic approaches, but your niche is health and fitness. So, I mean, you can literally throw a dart at these things. It's not that complicated.
Do you see that as, okay, I know my niche is health and fitness. Do I also need to pick something specific as well, like somatic healing?
I would, because when we're too broad, it's very confusing. And so people need to know what you do. So if you wanted, if you woke up with like a gunky eye, you could go to urgent care. I'm not saying urgent care is bad, but you probably want to go to an eye doctor. And if you were to go to urgent care, I'm telling you right now, they're going to tell you to go to an eye doctor. So the more specific you can get, not only can you charge more, think about it, right? Like, because you're specifically helping a cardiologist, you're helping with this one thing, you're well versed in this one area. So you can charge more, you're thought of higher, you have more credibility, more clout, and it feels really constricting. People often feel like, well, I'm leaving money on the table. I want to help everybody. But by trying to help everybody, by trying to chase two rabbits, you catch neither. And so this idea of going more niche is actually really important. I think it also just depends on what are you doing and what are you selling? Are you a coach who's selling a service, or are you a company selling a water bottle? So if your company's selling a water bottle, maybe your niche is products and service, it's goods, right? Like it's physical products, or maybe your industry is camping or something like that. But within that, it's like, okay, cool. You're selling a water bottle. You're not selling dog leashes. That doesn't make sense. If I came to your store and your website had water bottles, dog leashes, and laundry detergent, I'd be like, this is kind of confusing, but okay, I guess that's cool. So if you really want to be known for this one thing and you really want to grow this one thing, what I believe is that you earn your right to go wide. And so the more sort of credibility and clout and legs that you have to stand on, testimonials, all of that stuff, you can serve more people and you can help in other ways. And so, again, it's, I'm going to play this game with you. What do you think of when you think of Nike?
Sneakers.
Right. But do they sell clothing?
Yeah.
Of course. Do they have a fitness app?
Yes, they do.
They do. Do they have pet supplies? Absolutely. It's like, what do you think of when you,
I did not know that.
What do you think of when you think of Starbucks?
Coffee. Right.
Because that's what they sold when they started, but they have cake pops and they have protein bars and little sandwiches, and you know what I mean? They've earned their right to go wide. They came in only selling coffee. Nike only sold sneakers. And over time, when they built up the brand, which you're so great at teaching people, when they've built up the brand and they created the know, like, and trust, people were like, I'll buy anything from you because I love what you're about. I love how you show up. I love your products. You've never done me dirty, right? Like you always do good by me. Oh, sure, I'll buy a t-shirt from you. I'll absolutely wear sweatpants from you, but it takes time.
Picking that one thing is something that I know you have experienced with your clients. There's a ton of resistance to when I've done interviews for people that are feeling stuck. Like, for example, one person who was very into healing, she likes somatic healing, but also, breath work and all these different things. And so when I was asking her, like, what was the one thing that you would really start with, she had a hard time picking that. And I think this sort of reminds me of the contrast creates clarity and just getting started. So it's pick one thing, see what happens, see how you like it. And you said this to us, you're not married to your niche. You can change it or you can adjust these things. So do you think there's a way to kind of narrow down that one thing first? Or is it just like pick one and go with it?
Well, I think it's smart to think about what are you best at? What do you have the most experience at? Where do you maybe already have clients? Maybe you already have testimonials, something you can talk about just for hours and hours on end without having to like do research. I'd say maybe start there. Sometimes it might feel like the lowest hanging fruit, which might not be the most exciting thing, but again, your business is not meant to entertain you. It's meant to make money, right? I also think that you can be known for something similar to Nike sneakers, but they sell a lot of things. So I'm very known for digital marketing. Like I help people build businesses on social media. But when you come into my world, you're doing email marketing. We're talking about like LLCs. You're setting up business bank accounts. I'm not out there talking about all that stuff on the daily though, because it's very confusing. It's also stuff people don't want to do. But when you're in my world, we're going through launches. Like there's so many things we're teaching, but I really stand out as a digital marketing expert, right? Like you can call me a business coach all you want, but I'm teaching digital marketing. We're teaching you how to build a business and a brand through organic reach. no matter the platform that you're on. And so really we've like sort of put a flag in the sand, if you will, and that's how people know us. And so it's like, if you want to learn how to build a business online using social media, you come to me. What you get when you're inside of our coaching containers, it's not a bait and switch. It's you get all of the ingredients to bake the cake, not just the sprinkles, but we're talking a lot about the sprinkles, right?
You mentioned marketing social media, and I want to ask you just quickly, what is the biggest mistake that you're seeing people make? If you want to like look at just Instagram first or wherever you feel you're most best versed at talking about this, what's the biggest mistake you're seeing people make on social media today?
Oh,
Or like things that just
like,
bother
how
you
much
that
time do we have?
okay,
so honestly, the biggest mistake, this is so not sexy. Buckle up. You're not showing up. Like the biggest mistake is thinking that you can have an account and not be consistent and not show up and not actually provide value, and that your business is going to explode. You have to show up. You get to show up. But social media is a tool. It is not your business. Even if you're an influencer, it's a tool. It's marketing. It's not your business. Your business has a lot of departments. And this is where I think, again, unfortunately, the kind of sexiness and allure to entrepreneurship, people are confused. Having an Instagram account is not the same thing as running a business. I'm not being mean. It's just the reality. Posting on social media is not the same thing as being a CEO of a company. Creating a course is not even the same thing as being an entrepreneur. So when you're running a business, there's sales, there's marketing, there's lead generation, there's customer fulfillment, there's customer support, there's financials, there's legal, like there's HR, there's operations, I don't want to overwhelm you, but think about a business, right? Like you think of, I don't know, a giant company, a Verizon, like there's all departments of the company. Social media falls under the marketing department. Social media is one type of marketing in the department. We can do email marketing, text message marketing. We could pay for ads. We can do Google SEO. We can do brick and mortar, like put a banner outside. We can go to coffee shops. And I'm a Jersey girl, right? Like the diners used to have those paper placemats where you put the ads around. This is marketing. Social media is literally one type of dozens of types of marketing. It is not your business. And so when you can change your relationship to social media, because I know I've been here. Oh, I have to post today. When you change that to number one, you get to, it's not a have to, you get to. Second, it's free. So you're silly to not utilize it as a business owner. Yeah. But third is if you can clock in and clock out, you don't have to, social media doesn't have to run your life. You clock in, you go on, you do the things you need to do, you post, you comment, you engage, and you leave. It's not like an all day constantly checking thing. It's just one part of your business. When you leave, you clock in, you write your emails, you leave. When you leave that, you clock in, again, based on your masculine and feminine energy, you do your coaching call, you leave. You clock in, you do your podcast, you leave. It's one part of a very small part. So the biggest mistake that I see people making is that they're just not showing up, like period. Yeah.
I'm the perfect example of that, but I am going to return to social media very soon. You all you wait. I know we're almost out of time, so I want to really just look at what are some of the common traits that you are seeing among the most successful clients that you've had, or even better yet, but if you don't have examples of this, that's fine too, of those that have gotten unstuck and have been the most successful. Are there themes or personality traits or behaviors that you're seeing pop up?
Yeah. What definition of success are we playing with here?
I don't want to pick just one because I think everyone has a different version of success.
Yeah. I mean, our definition of success always is changing. I think back to what it used to be for me, and it was very money driven. And now it's like very life driven and just, am I happy? Am I healthy? Am I taking care of myself? How are my relationships? So it does change. So I think that people are doing lots of different things to get their level of success that they want. But in the term that a lot of us think about with business, it's like, who is making revenue, most importantly, profit, who is not burning themselves out running their business. I would say it's a couple things. Not everybody agrees with me. I think that it's really important to have a signature offer. I think it's really important to know that one thing. And when I look at all of my mentors, all of the people I look up to, businesses that are bigger than mine have, more revenue, more profit, more team, less work that they're actually showing up for, more clients. They have one thing. And for me, success leaves clues. So that tells me something. They're doing one thing and they're doing it really, really well. and they do it on repeat, even when it gets boring. They find new hobbies when they're bored in their business. They have email lists. They do not rely solely on social media because that is a list that we borrow. We do not own that. They are adaptable and malleable to new platforms, to new trends. And despite not knowing anything, every time something new comes out, they're the early adopters. So, I mean, I think back years ago, I was on Periscope. Like, what? Your audience might not even know what that is, but that was an app that came out where it was a video streaming app, and I would go live. I don't know who I was talking to. It didn't matter. The moment Clubhouse came out, I was on it. My mentors, it's like the second Reels came out, they were figuring it out. And so whether that trend or that new thing sticks or not, it doesn't matter. When I think of the most successful, even, crypto, NFTs, it doesn't matter what happened to it or what you believe. These people were doing it. They were trying it. And so it's getting into the sandbox. It's playing in the dirt and really testing it out, because you just never know what it'll turn into. So I'd say those are probably some of the biggest things.
Before we end, one last question I have for you is, what is any final piece or pieces of advice that you want to leave my audience for anyone that's feeling stuck?
Oh, geez. I have one. But first, I just want to edify you. I love you so much. And
I love you so much.
I love everything you're doing. And I'm so grateful to be here. I know that wasn't your question, but I'm just so proud of you as a friend, as just like watching you show up and serve the way that you do. It's just incredible. So I just adore you.
That means a lot to me.
My piece of advice. Okay, so I'm going to go with one of my favorite quotes, which is a Steve Jobs quote. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back, and you have to trust that they'll appear.
I love that.
So I'm going to go, you know me. If you haven't figured it out by now, I like to talk. So I'm going to give you a little visual, because I'm a visual person. So I see this as a river. All right. And all of the dots that Steve was talking about in my head are stepping stones. They're rocks in the river. And so this journey of life, we're in this river and we're sort of crossing from one bank to the other, and we're in the river stepping on these stones. And if you're in a river, and you've done this before as a kid, maybe, you know that sometimes you actually have to go backwards and move over in order to go forwards, because there's nothing left for you to jump on. Sometimes you step on a rock and it's really slippery and it's got algae and your foot slips in the water and you get wet. You might even roll your ankle. Sometimes you find a rock so big that you could fit like 15 people on it and hang out and just chill for a little bit, because it's exhausting. Sometimes you find a tree branch that's fallen down and you can actually get like a solid 10 feet across, whereas just a tiny little stone, you could only get a couple inches. We are all in such a rush to get there. And when you could realize that the other edge of the riverbed is actually when you're no longer here, like I said earlier, the destination is the doing. Like the party is inside the river. This is where it's happening. And ego is your biggest overhead. There's nothing wrong with going backwards. There's nothing more powerful than pausing on a river rock and looking around to see what's the next best choice. Not if I make the wrong choice, I'm bad. There is no wrong choice. What's the next best decision? If I choose to go to the rock to the right, that's the path that I'm on. It doesn't matter about the rock to the left unless I decide to go backwards and go to the left. And I will only learn by doing. So there is action breeds confidence. Action breeds clarity. You will not know that that rock is slippery until you step on it. And your only job inside the river is to help those around you and to shout out and let them know, this one's slippery, that one's shaky, come over to this one. It's great. Come, I got your hand. I'll reach out and help you. No one is better than you. No one is ahead of you. No one is behind you. We're in the river rocks together.
Ooh, I love that. I remember you telling us this for our graduation. And what you said that really stuck with me is you just need to shine the flashlight on the rock in front of you. You don't need to know the exact way that you're getting across the riverbank. Every failure is really just a perfect teaching lesson. Like there's never, like you said, there's never a bad decision, because you're either learning or you're either sort of taking steps forward. And I actually heard someone recently on TikTok, don't know who it was, say that there's like peaks and valleys in life, and that, it's similar to like choosing the wrong rock. She's like, but you're either, I don't like to look at it as ups and downs, but it's either I'm a student of life and I'm learning, or I am mastering it. I'm sort of the mentor. And so either way, whether you're in a low point, you feel like you made a mistake and now you're failing, you're learning, that still serves just as great a purpose as when you are, mastering and you have sort of learned the lesson. So that may be one of my favorite pieces of advice that I've heard. So thank you so much for sharing that. Jess, the adoration and it's so mutual. I love you so much. I'm so grateful for you coming on every time I speak with you, I feel like I just have so many light bulbs. I cannot wait to see what people think of everything that you've said, because it's just so much wisdom that can really help us move forward. So thank you. Thank you again. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Before we wrap up, where can people find you? And then is there anything that you want to plug?
Where can you find me? So come hang out with me on Instagram. That's where I hang out most. My handle is I am Jessica DeRose. I know it's confusing. Glazer DeRose, married name, all that. But I am Jessica DeRose. We're everywhere. So we're literally TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, website, Instagram, Facebook. Oh yeah, your girl's got YouTube.
And TikTok. I love TikTok. That.
Oh, okay. I love TikTok. It's so fun. Really excited as well. We do 2 podcast episodes per week. So we have an incredible podcast called Digital Business Evolution. So please come hang out with me there. But yeah, shoot me a DM. It's me. I love voice memoing with people. Let me know that you came from Steph's podcast. Tell me how you're planning on getting unstuck and what action steps you are taking. And then, yes, I would love to gift your audience with a little gift if you're into it.
Yeah, thank you. I would love it.
Okay. So I mentioned before, just in passing, how important it was that we build email lists, right? Because those are lists that we own. And statistically, they are still the highest converting place for buyers. 72% of buyers still and consumers still prefer to purchase through email. So it is not dead. It is a list that you own. We don't want to rely solely on social media. Remember, these all fall under the marketing bucket. My team and I have taken everything that we have learned, all the blueprint stuff that we have for business, and we packaged it together in a 10 video series, super short and digestible. It's really incredible. It's totally free, so that you can build and grow your email list with hot leads and dream buyers fast and for free. And so what we're doing in this video series is we're teaching you all of the what and the why and the how, of course, but more importantly, how can you continue to grow your business, reach more ideal clients, build deeper relationships with those clients, and then ultimately generate more revenue without having to just show up more on social media. So we'll give you that link. You can drop it into the show notes, hopefully, but this is a really, really cool training. I spent so many hours pouring love into this. It's definitely the thing I'm most excited about right now.
I'm excited. I feel like whenever you make a free offer like this, it's almost as if you're giving away your coaching for free. The value that you add to your free offers is insane. I know I'm going to check it out. Be sure to go check out her podcast and this new email offer. I'll link them both below. Jess, thank you again. I can't tell you how much I appreciated and enjoyed this interview with you.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I love you.